My gang, we are back. It's your boy Robbie. We here for a react. This is going to be coming from that YouTube channel, J Diggs. How good were Michael Jackson's brothers and sisters? Yeah, this should be interesting. I can definitely say Janet was up there. She was one of them ones. And that's about it. I mean, LaToya tried her hand at music, didn't go nowhere. So she went and did other things, but we ain't gonna waste no time. We're gonna get to this video. Let's go.
The Jacksons are arguably the most successful music family of all time. All 9 Jackson kids had solo hits on the Billboard charts, but only 2 are still a household name. And I bet you can't guess which one actually beat Michael for the #1 spot on the R&B charts. In this video, we're gonna find out just how good Michael's brothers and sisters really were. Not as good as Michael, of course, but nobody was. What were their strengths? What were their weaknesses? And how successful was their career? And naturally, we gotta start off with the second most famous
What was
Jackson.
that?
100 million records sold, 10 #1 singles on Billboard, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Janet is the only one who built a career you could put in the same conversation as Michael's. But here's what people don't know, or don't remember. Her first 2 albums actually flopped. Her debut album came out in 1982 when she was only 16. The album sold 250,000 copies that year, and her single Young Love peaked at 60.
250,000 copies today is considered good compared to the state of music, you know, but back then, you know, going gold was cool, but platinum status was where it was. So yeah, that's bad for its time. That was bad.
54 on the Hot 100. It wasn't bad, but with Joe Jackson as her manager, it wasn't the kind of numbers he was used to.
That nigga look mean.
2 years later, she tried again. Her second album was called Dream Street, and it was produced by her brother Marlon, who we'll get to later. It peaked at 147 on the Billboard 200 and never produced a Hot 100 single. Worse than the first one. By 1985, Janet was 19 years old and her career seemed like it was over before it even started. So she made a decision that changed everything. In 1985, Janet terminated all business affairs with her family. She walked away from Joe's management and hired an A&M executive named John McClain to take over her career. And John McClain introduced her to 2 producers who, at the time, nobody had ever heard of yet.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis.
Incredibly talented, incredibly creative. So it wasn't just taking a Minneapolis sound, but also bringing the Jimmy and Terry feel to that, and me bringing my own little thing to it. It helped to create a sound of my own.
Janet, Jimmy, and Terry recorded Control in just 6 weeks. It debuted at number 84, but it climbed to #1 and it sold 250,000 copies in 1 week, which was a record for a female artist at the time. It produced 5 top 10 hits on the Hot 100, and the album eventually sold 10 million copies worldwide.
This was before my time, but yeah, I'm sure it was a vibe when this came out. I think this album came out in 86, so yeah, I wasn't around yet.
Wide. And then she did it again. Rhythm Nation 1814 was #1 on Billboard for 4 weeks straight. And then it did something that no album had ever done before. 7 top 5 hits on the Hot 100. Rhythm Nation is the only album in Billboard history to pull that off. Then in 1991, she made history again. She signed with Virgin Records for a contract that made her the highest paid musical artist in the world. And sources say that the deal was around $40 million. So Janet was and still is pretty damn good, but she did have some weaknesses. See, Janet never really had a powerful voice, which is probably her biggest weakness. In an era when Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey were blowing people away,
Right.
Janet was never really gonna out-sing them. But Janet's strength was her breathiness and her sweet tone, which gave her this extra level of sex appeal.
A lot of people feel that I'm sexy. I think that's a compliment.
And Janet's biggest strength was the fact that
Yeah, she was sexy
could
as hell.
outdance the singers with the big voices. Whitney could out-sing her, but Whitney wasn't gonna be doing a Rhythm Nation choreography in a military suit. Now, Janet is the obvious one who made it to superstar status, but Jermaine is the one who a lot of people forgot came close. 16 charted singles on the Billboard Hot 100, a Grammy nomination, a decade of top 30 hits. He was the only brother besides Michael to build a real pop career. And for a few years in the early 80s, he was genuinely in the conversation. Jermaine was the second lead vocalist of the Jackson 5. His voice wasn't as powerful as young Michael's was, but he had this warmth and richness to his voice which helped to balance out some of the songs. His first solo single came out in 1972 called Daddy's Home, which hit number 9 on the Hot 100 and actually sold 1 million copies. But then
I don't think I've ever heard that. I gotta go check that out.
1975, the split happened. The Jackson 5 decided to leave Motown for Epic Records. They were fighting over royalties and they wanted creative control. But Jermaine stayed because he wanted to stay loyal to the owner of Motown, Berry Gordy. Plus,
and he was with his
married
daughter.
to his daughter.
Right.
So now Jermaine is alone at Motown with the solo deal, but the problem is, now he's got to stand on his own 2 feet. But after the split, his first 3 solo albums, they all flopped. His choice to stay was looking like the worst decision of his career. But then, Stevie Wonder called. In 1980, Jermaine and Stevie Wonder made a record called Let's Get Serious. The record got Jermaine a Grammy nomination for Best Male R&B Vocal Performance. But the most surprising part, for 1 year, Jermaine actually took the top spot from Michael. In 1980, on the Billboard year-end R&B chart, Let's Get Serious was number 1, and Rock With You was number 2. But it didn't stop there. Through the early 80s, Jermaine kept charting.
Yo, I don't know if it's me, and I'm sure y'all would agree. Yo, us black brothers, we was going through some hell in the 80s with the hairstyles. For real. Like, what the hell does Jermaine got going on with his hair? Oh, man, I'm so glad I was not around for this. You know, I was born in the late 80s, you know what I'm saying? And I'm 80s to my core, but this, no, I'm glad I wasn't there for that. By the time I came around, we was wearing high top fades and things like that.
We
got it right.
Singles.
We started getting it right.
And in 1985, he helped produce Whitney Houston's debut album. But as pop and R&B music started to change in the early 90s, Jermaine wasn't able to evolve like Michael and Janet did. In 1992, his album You Said flopped completely, and his mainstream solo career had never recovered. So Jermaine's strength was his warm and silky tone, arguably the best singer after Michael in the group. Also, he developed music production chops, and most people forget, Jermaine was a hell of a bass player. Now, what Jermaine was bad at was range. Not just vocally, but his ability to keep up with the change in music tastes. And then come to think about it, even all the way back to his decision to stay at Motown, I would say his weakness is just change in general. He decided to stay at Motown where he was comfortable, even though the writing was on the wall that it was time to move on.
Right.
When you hear about the Jacksons, you almost never hear anybody mention Reby Jackson. She had 2 top 10 hits on the R&B chart, a gold certified
single,
single,
she sung
4 studio albums, and almost nobody outside of dedicated music fans knows her name. But what makes her career even more unique is she actually didn't want it. Reby was the oldest, and she spent her 20s and 30s being a mother while her brothers became the most famous group in the world. But in 1984, she caught the Jackson bug and released her debut album.
Why did it take you so long to get around to doing all of this?
That's a question that everybody asks, and I guess the best way to put it is that I got married in '68, and I was busy with my family. And even though I've always enjoyed music, I never thought about going into it on a professional level.
She was 34 years old, which is not typical for a debut artist.
Right.
But when Michael Jackson is your songwriter and producer, you can't lose. Her single Centipede hit number 4 on the Billboard R&B chart and number 24 in the Hot 100. Plus, it sold over 500,000 copies. She followed it up with Reaction in 1986, which hit number 16 on the charts. Then Are You Tough Enough in 88, with the single Plaything hitting number 3. So things were looking good for Reby, but it was a little too late. She did one more album in 98, but by this time she was almost 50 years old, and a solo career just wasn't important to her anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say though, one thing we can all admit, them Jacksons, like, of course, she didn't have the star power like her sister Janet, her younger sister, or her younger brother Michael. But the fact that you can get out here in your 30s and do numbers like that when we're in a time now where there are artists that got big names and don't even do those type of numbers. It just says a lot about just, them Jacksons, man. They just had it in them. I mean, yeah, some weren't as successful as Michael and Janet, but you know what I mean? It's nothing to sneeze at. She did it.
And it's hard to say what Reeby's strengths and weaknesses are because I don't think she ever really wanted to be in the spotlight. She married her childhood sweetheart, she had 3 kids, and just wanted to live a quiet life. So
right.
I guess I would say her strength is being a wife and a mother. And I think that's just as valuable as being a pop star any day.
Yeah, you need that. Like, I ain't gonna lie. Like, in an industry like that, or being from a family that's that noticed and popular, you always gonna have that one sibling that's just not in the spotlight. You need that balance. It's almost like the Wayans. Their older sister, there's an older sister that's I want to say older than Keenan or around his age. You don't hear nothing about her. You know what I'm saying? She just lived a regular life. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
LaToya Jackson was the first Jackson sister to go solo. She's probably known as the most unorthodox Jackson.
Get your hands on a LaToya, and you'll never let go.
She posed for Playboy. She married a shady businessman with ties to the mafia who coerced her into marriage. And she was the most outspoken about the family and things that happened behind the scenes.
We always had to smile for the cameras whenever we were on television or taking pictures and pretend like we were this loving, perfect family. However, at home, it was quite different for us.
As far as the music goes, the numbers from her early career are better than what most people remember. 9 charter singles on Billboard. Her debut single, If You Feel the Funk, hit number 17 on the dance chart. By 1984, LaToya had a top 60 Hot 100 hit and 4 charted R&B singles, which is actually more traction than most of her brothers had at the same point in their career. She was on her way to building her own music legacy, but then she left Joe's management and everything fell apart. It should have been the same story as Janet, but LaToya didn't hire a professional manager and 2 high-level producers who played with Prince. She hired a criminal businessman named Jack Gordon.
Took the wrong direction.
He literally said, I'm gonna kill you, your brother, everybody.
Yes. No, not everybody. Just myself.
And Michael.
Michael and Jan. And I believed him. I believed him because of things that I had seen from big.
I noticed that, like, all of them sound the same. They all have this, like, and I was in this and that. They all have that sound. Janet, Michael, her, they all have that same. I don't know. I guess they must get it from their mom because they all sound alike.
With him.
By the mid-90s, she had filed for bankruptcy and became trapped in her marriage. Jack became abusive and obsessive and exploited her for quick money. And he forced her to do projects that she didn't really want to do. Now, luckily, LaToya finally divorced Jack in 1997, but 10 years of her career was gone. But it's not all bad now, because she eventually pivoted to reality TV, and she did that for most of the 2000s and the 2010s. And now she keeps busy by promoting health awareness to her fans as she focuses on her own health struggles. But now, if we're looking at it from a purely music and talent perspective, LaToya did have some hits, but she's probably the weakest singer in the whole family. But it's kind of like that saying where you shoot for the moon and you'll be amongst the stars. She's the weakest one, but in a family like that, I mean, she's still talented.
People have a tendency to compare you because you come from the same family, and they expect for you to be like Michael or have the energy that he exerts out to the public. And I don't feel that that's fair because I do what I do and he does what he does well.
Marlon was probably the hardest working Jackson. He wasn't a naturally gifted singer, and early on, he wasn't a good dancer either. And he struggled to keep up with his brothers. Michael was a prodigy, but Marlon had to work twice as hard just to stay in the group.
That was ancient history. Then is then, and now is now.
But by the time the Jackson 5 reached their peak, Marlon had become the group's main choreographer. Michael is known as one of the greatest dancers in pop music, but Marlon was the one designing a lot of the moves in the early years. And he had some nice moves himself when he went solo. Started songwriting and producing, and in 1987, he went solo with his own album, Baby Tonight, and his lead single, Don't Go, hit #2 on the Billboard R&B charts. Now, the album had a lot of hype, and he had a deal with Columbia Records, but in the end, the record only sold about 200,000 copies. And instead of following it up, Marlon just walked away from music. Now, sometimes he still tours with Jackie as the Jacksons, but his career as a solo artist, it never went past the hit single.
If I had to live my life over, I will live it the same.
You're endless. You see endless possibilities for you.
That's for anybody in the world. It's your mind. Whatever you want to do. You see something you want to do.
You know what it was, man? What it was that Michael Jackson set a bar so high that it was damn near impossible for his siblings to meet that. You know what I mean? The vocalism, the stage presence, all of that, just his aura, you know what I'm saying? The things he was into and stuff like that. Thriller, like, you know, Off the Wall was a good album. You know what I'm saying? I fuck with Off the Wall, but Thriller, man. Thriller was it. Like, he set that damn bar so high. He said, listen, I know y'all my siblings. I love y'all, but y'all niggas ain't catching me. You know what I'm saying? The only one that came remotely close was Janet. That's it. You know what I'm saying? But the rest of you niggas, no. Y'all not catching. Y'all not about to hit the bar.
Now, compared to Michael and Jermaine, Marlon never really developed a high-level singing voice, but his biggest strength became his dancing. He became the third best dancer in the group, and in a family that includes Michael and Janet, it's pretty impressive.
This shit here, this is funny. I've seen this all over Instagram. He was feeling that shit.
When the Jackson 5 started in 1965, Randy was only 3 years old. He grew up watching his older brothers on the sidelines, but the whole time he was still practicing. And by the time he was a teenager, he could play piano, percussion, bass, guitar. Randy did a lot of writing on their albums with Epic Records, and he got nominated for his work on the Triumph album. And in 1989, it was time to do his own thing. He wrote and produced all the tracks himself, and the lead single, Love You Honey, started gaining traction and hit #16 on the R&B charts. Now, Randy's band was signed to A&M Records, but there was one person standing in his way. Rhythm Nation came out the same year as Randy's album, and the company was focused on Janet's rollout. On top of that, A&M Records was being sold to another company at the time, and the label was so distracted with the transition that nobody wanted to put the necessary marketing push behind Randy. The album came and went. Randy and the Gypsies, they broke up and never released another solo project. But the saddest part of Randy's story is he didn't get inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with his brothers. Only the original 5 members were inducted. On the bright side though, Janet and Randy are really close, and Janet made him a partner in her record label, Rhythm Nation Records. But as far as his solo career, he never really had a chance. But if I had to guess, I don't think Randy really has any regrets about taking a back seat so his sister could go on and be a superstar. When Tito Jackson was 10 years old, he got caught playing his father's guitar. He broke one of the strings.
Who did this? Broke the string of my guitar.
And when Joe found out, he demanded that his son play for him. Tito played his ass off. First of all, to impress his father, but he also didn't want to get a beating either.
Tito said I was playing it, and he was crying at the same time, so my father said, well, show me what you know how to play this and that. And
Joe was so inspired that he told Tito, Jackie, and Jermaine to form a group. Not only was the guitar Tito's strength, he eventually became a highly respected player in the blues world. For the next 40 years, Tito was in the group, on the tours, in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but he didn't release a solo album. But by then, every Jackson had done at least one solo project, even Reby. Tito said that he wanted to focus on being a father and a husband, so he put off chasing a solo career. But one day, he was watching basketball and the commentators made some Jackson 5 jokes that pushed him over the edge.
Well, listen, let's be realistic. The Miami Heat are Michael Jackson, Dwayne Wade, and a bunch of Tito Jacksons. They're not very good.
Tito was probably one of the least influential of that group, would you say?
But he's got the best name.
Tito was in the back of the background sometimes.
He's one of the greatest group of all time.
Right, but it was Michael and Jermaine, then Marlon and Jackie, and then
Jermaine?
Tito was in the back.
Jermaine, it was Michael Jackson.
Little did they know, Tito was watching. And that's what finally got him in the studio. Tito Time came out in 2016. He was 63 years old, but the lead single Get It Baby with Big Daddy Kane hit number 20 on the adult R&B charts. The single did something else too. It was the record that completed the Guinness World Records for the whole Jackson family. The most siblings to have solo hits on the Billboard charts. In 2021, Tito released his blues album called Under Your Spell. And the feature list alone shows you how much respect Tito actually had in the industry, no matter what some retired NBA players had to say. But sadly, while he was working on his third album, Tito passed away in 2024 from heart complications. He was the last Jackson to go solo,
Tito, man.
But without Tito, we may have never known about the Jacksons at all. His solo career was short, but he was a great father and a damn good guitar player. Jackie Jackson was the athlete of the family. He really wanted to be a basketball player, so music was just a backup plan. But with Joe Jackson calling the shots, music was the only plan. Jackie had the lightest natural voice of the brothers and took on the falsetto notes. And he was a really good songwriter. He co-wrote Can You Feel It? He wrote Torture on the Victory album. He had songwriting credits on all the albums with Epic Records. But one thing he didn't have was much of a solo career. Jackie released his first solo album in '73 on Motown, but it never charted. And he wouldn't release another record for 16 years. In 1989, he put out his album Be The One, and the single Stay did hit number 39 on the R&B charts. But he never got the same attention as his brothers or his sisters.
I'm telling you, man, that whole like metrosexual look was contagious in the 80s, wasn't it? Like these dudes got these perms, ultra processors in their hair, when eyeliner, like that whole Prince and Michael pretty much set the tone for the 80s and what a male singer should look like. And they were all trying to do that, and it just did not work for these niggas. It didn't work for them. You know what I mean?
And the main thing holding Jackie back was the same thing that was his strength. But it only worked in the confines of the Jackson 5. But Jackie is really important to the Jackson legacy. He became a consultant for the Michael Jackson estate. He works in the production with the Michael Jackson Cirque du Soleil show, and he still tours with Marlon as the Jacksons. So even though he didn't have much of a solo career, he's still working to keep the family legacy going and not letting the Jacksons just become a memory.
As far as moving forward, do you have some other things that you guys may be working on?
Yeah, we got new music coming out.
Oh,
very soon. Oh, yes, we do.
That's right. We gonna come and blow this joint up if
Let's
y'all
do
don't play
it.
it. If y'all don't play it.
Every Jackson sibling had at least one moment of stardom, and almost none of them get remembered for it. But it's kind of hard when your brother is the king of pop. And not only did the Jackson family live in Michael's shadow, but a lot of artists of today live in his shadow too. Watch this video on the screen next, where I cover how almost every modern artist has taken inspiration from Michael and how he inspired the direction of the entire music industry as a whole. Thank you guys for...
Yeah, that was a good one, man. Speaking as someone who's been a Michael Jackson supporter, I don't like to say the word fan, since I was a child, me and my cousins, I'm not surprised. But what I did take from this is that is definitely a family of talent. You know what I'm saying? It's just, Michael was just that one. You know what I'm saying? He was like, it's like Michael Jordan, almost. Like Michael Jackson was just in a different stratosphere as far as being an artist. You know what I'm saying? So it's very interesting, very amazing to see that they all gave it a shot. You know, they didn't just say, oh, you know, our brother's Michael Jackson, we ain't going. It's like, look, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? You could set the bar high, but I'm going to try to reach it. You know what I'm saying? Janet came close. But yeah, respects to them, man. You know, shout outs to the Jackson family. You know what I'm saying? Shout outs to Joseph Jackson. You know, I know he gets a bad rap, but let's remember, if it weren't for, you know, him and Catherine, none of this would have came to be. So respects to them. You know what I'm saying? If you made it this far, I appreciate you. Make sure you chin check the like button, take the subway, and be sure to sound off in the comment section until security kicks your asses out. That being said, it's your boy Robbie. Till the next video, we gone.